Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3-Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry. And all three of us are professional illustrators. Together, we've published somewhere around 75 children's books. We've worked for all the major publishers in the business, and we've all taught illustration in university art programs.
Each week, we come at you guys with awesome illustrator interviews or listener questions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. Will, you missed it. Last week, we interviewed Benji Davies.
Mm.
It
And
was a good one.
Yeah, it was a dang good episode.
It
and
was the one to make, huh?
Yeah, it made Lee and I kind of question our
We left there
our whole
thinking we've
process.
got the business totally wrong. He's got it right. He's only doing books. He's successful. He's just drawing and stuff every day. I mean, I'm lucky if I get one day to paint and draw because we do so much other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're stupid.
I don't know. Will's got it figured out. He just has us do everything. And then
He just feigns ignorance. Like,
I feel so
can
bad.
find the
I feel so bad for missing tomorrow on How to Fix Your Art. Just so you know, I looked at the calendar, okay?
Uh-huh.
I counted for it. We planned our trip for last week.
Uh-huh.
And then Lily goes, my daughter's coming into town. I didn't know it. She's going to be selling at it was like an anime con in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, can we push back a week? And I'm like, by that time,
Yeah.
it was out of my
What are you
thinking
gonna do?
process.
What are you gonna do?
And so then I'm like, sure. And then we have like people counting on us and everything. And then I'm like, crap. I saw the email go out about how to fix your art. And I'm like, I can't believe we pushed into that. So
And then I yell at you in the
yeah,
text.
I felt horrible. But at the end of the day, yeah, you guys are still going to cover for me.
Yeah.
So that's
How
the
do you-
kind of guys you are.
Right. And this is our episode of couples therapy on 3-Point Perspective.
I'm going to owe you guys. So you can cash in.
We will. We will
Yeah.
at some point.
Cash in.
Okay. So let's not bury the lead and get right into today's question. How
Let's do
about it? Okay. First one comes in from Lina. And subject is not a children's book illustrator. So she says, my dilemma is this. I don't have a huge desire to become a children's book illustrator. I'd love to work for Leica or even Team Cherry, but those seem like pipe dreams to me. I don't know what Team Cherry is. Is that like a
I haven't
game
heard of that
company?
one.
Something?
Oh, look.
I'll look
You
it up.
keep
Google
going.
And so I've gone a more realistic route because I have to pay the bills. Currently work like Chantai Hori's, Danica Sills, and Haikala. These are all these are cool artists. I don't know if I've pronounced them right, but these are like artists who just do really really beautiful watercolored scene illustrations that like take you to a place, right? Almost like Miyazaki film still. Okay. Yeah, okay. Team Cherry makes indie games. That's what I thought. All right, so she's working in that style. They illustrate standalone pieces and occasionally put them together into coffee table books. At events, my big ticket items are prints and stickers. I also want to put together a tarot deck, and I currently have a coloring book in the works. There's a lot of information out there for illustrators who want to go the children's book route, but not a whole lot there for someone who mostly wants to do their own thing. So my question is, do you have any advice for those of us in this bracket of this field? Is there a different way, for instance, for us to market our work? Is there a type of agent who works with artists like this? Is having an agent even in the cards for someone like me? All right, so let's answer that. And then
There's a part B.
there's like a part B to that. I feel like Lee is sort of the leader in this out of us three. Lee has the most information on this. One-off illustrations, collecting them in books, making other things out of them. What would your advice be to Lina?
As long as there is, I do think it's a viable way to go, but you have to think where and how am I going to sell it, and who is the market for those things. I mean, those artists that she mentioned look like they are going that route. Definitely the fine art-ish route where there's going to be print sales, there's going to be some kind of product sales, a grouping of images together for a book, greeting cards, and then where are you going to sell that stuff? And then so that becomes, are you showing in galleries? I mean, that's like the artists that she showed, that they're probably showing in galleries, and that's sort of the driver of the independent pieces. But there has to be something that ties it all together. And you can do it. I mean, Loish sort of does it, but she kind of went a social media route, and that's her package. So you just got to decide where your package is going to be. If it's going to be individual things, they just need to be grouped under some kind of sales umbrella. And it's tough because there's going to be a lot of different avenues that you have to build, and unfortunately, they tend to be slow building, whether that's a print market or whether that's getting into Comic-Cons and art fairs. It's a slow kind of growth, and they do require money up front. That's the big. Artists are the cheapest people. I'm not talking to this person in particular. I don't know about her finances, but artists are the cheapest people ever. They don't want to have a startup cost, and everything about doing individual images like this is a startup cost. It's getting good quality prints, good quality paper. Buying a table or a booth at an art fair is expensive. And then actually having the booth itself is also expensive and difficult. So just plan it like a normal business. Here's my product, here's what I sell, and here's where I sell it, and here's who buys it. And that's how you start down that road. I would keep a second job. Just my personal recommendation is do a 5-year sort of plan and build into it. And don't just think I'm quitting my job, or if you have any kind of current money coming in, that you're just going to quit and do this. Like I said, it is a marathon idea. It is not a sprint. And so slow and steady sort of wins that race.
And if you look at these three, I'm just gonna pull up the three different artists that she was talking about. So here we have Haikala. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I actually met her once. Super nice artist. But if you look at, we'll just go to her homepage. She's selling mugs. You scroll down. She's got a coloring book, but it's got watercolor paper instead of regular marker paper. So it's for watercolors. She's got her art book, which collects her art. She's got prints, but she's also selling
she's selling brushes. How does that
brushes, washi tape.
How is she selling brushes? I don't understand.
I think she just buys them wholesale and sells them, just like anybody else. Watercolor sets too.
I hadn't even thought of doing that.
She sells ink sets that come with like a little illustration on the ink thing. I'd almost get it just for like this cool illustration on the box.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So she just basically got the box, and then she just put her sticker on top.
Yeah.
Right.
So this girl she's an entrepreneur, right? Like
she's about as entrepreneurial as I've ever seen. I've never seen people selling products like, so then you go just art supplies.
You go to Danica Sills, right? She's got this cool kind of a Halloween style. She's drawn skeleton women and zombie, glow in the dark women prints, or that's what she's illustrating. We go to her shop. She's selling prints, essentially. Some pins too. Okay. So I think what's going on here is she's going the Patreon route. Choose to support me on Patreon. You're going to get behind the scenes a look at what she's doing. She's got a sticker pack and a print and sticker pack. So it's almost like a subscription to her shop. And then we got this artist, Chantal Horace. And look what we got. We got the portfolio here, prints. Okay, we go to the prints, and she's just doing an imprint, so she's not making any money off of print sales, right? So of the three, the person who's really killing it seems like is this girl, and she just really knows how to, like, what her art style is and how to make it look good on something that's sellable, like the sticker set, all these little iconic little images. Looks so good as sticker and stickers.
Her prices are really low too. I mean, like, don't you think $10 for a sticker sheet like that is pretty low?
For a sticker sheet,
stickers,
that's
I think
about
that's
right.
okay. Yeah.
That's about right. No, these are all priced a pretty. Yeah, you're right. It's a little low, but it's about right. Like, anyways,
can I say something here? Like something that I've noticed now that you're talking about all three of these artists. And one thing you have to have, the essential ingredient that you guys want to pay attention to. Write this down. Get out your pencils and papers or your phone to write this down. The thing you have to have for this to work is a definable brand. I mean, if you look at all three of those, they're sort of, I don't want to make this sound as like an insult because it's not. It's almost the same image over and over. You know exactly what you're getting from them. They slightly change it. I'll argue that Loish does the same thing. I mean, we all do to some extent, the more branded we are. But those people in particular, those three, are super branded. I mean, you could almost take one, put it in Photoshop, adjust the colors, and say, okay, here's a new one. I mean, that's how close each image is to the previous image. And looking at this person's work, I don't see that same quality there yet. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying it's not nice. There is different images there, but it is nowhere close to the branding that has to happen for an individual artist to make it with individual pieces.
I'm gonna share her. Did she give permission for us to share her? Yes, she did. Okay, we're gonna share it.
I like her work quite a bit. I'll just say this, that there's just not enough of it. And it's not, I don't know what, like those other artists, you can kind of anticipate what the next piece they're going to put out is. I can't anticipate what the next piece that this artist might do. And so that's where I would say she needs to go. If she wants to go that direction, there's got to be some kind of consistency that happens and more interesting images. I love those bottom three, by the way. You could make probably a career just of that. But it's weird because a lot of times I see artists, myself included, we get bored and then we do something entirely different. I was bored of doing the comics, and so now I did a realistic figure painting, and now I did this, and like it's really sloppy. You see people who are successful. I remember hearing Steve Houston talk about this. He's a painter, fine art painter who did boxers. And once he got successful doing the boxers, what did people want to see from him? Boxers. And they were not happy if he was doing something that wasn't a boxer. So just something to think about. You put yourself in your own little world, sort of, when you start selling yourself as a brand, and you better like that world because you're going to be stuck there.
Yeah. I think what's gonna this really kind of abstract type of thing is gonna be great for licensing work. So I'll just pick one of these. Say this. You license this image to a shower curtain company, to a lampshade. You know, people that need art for lampshades. Somebody needs a cover for like a journal or something like that. Like if you walk around Target and you look at the journals, the duvet covers, the lampshades, the greeting cards, the thank you cards, like all the little things that need art on them. And that's, I think, a space where something like this exists. Now you get bonus points. And by that, I mean better deals. If you can make a style that's a little more genre specific. So I bring up Rifle Paper Company. Okay, I'm just going to show you this. We're gonna look at it, and these guys, you're going to see them just killing it at Barnes and Noble. You walk into Barnes and Noble in the journal section, and there's a whole Rifle Paper Company wall. You go to any little boutique that sells anything, cute and flower related, and you're going to absolutely see a Rifle Paper Company calendar in there. You're going to see a journal. You're going to see a planner. They've branched out to doing patterns for furniture, right? For wallpaper, little purses. Okay. Do you want to know where this started? This started right here. This is the girl. I started Rifle Paper Company in 2009 with my husband Nathan, and over the years, what started as a small stationery brand. So she was doing one-off designs for people's wedding invitations, like wedding announcements. And it has grown to include a full range of home decor and gifts. Our world is full of bold colors, painted florals, and whimsical characters. And our goal is to create quality products that bring beauty to the everyday. So it started out like just doing these little watercolor paintings and designing them for friends, wedding announcements or baby announcements or things like that. Somebody seeing the right thing and saying this would be good for licensing, maybe going to a licensing show and showing here's what my stuff would look like on everything, and then just branching out slowly and surely one by one to different things. But you could see this is like a really appealing, engaging thing. People love flowers. They like designing like really designed, well thought out design stuff that looks like care has been given to it. And I look at this, where's Lina? I see the beginnings of something happening here. It's just maybe a little too abstract, but if you could go in and,
she does a drawing of a city, like in that style of that one that you're on. Mm-hmm. Amazing. I mean, that would, I would buy it.
Right. Like go down this path a little bit more and say, okay, I'm going to be the person who does really interesting city designs. And then you've got a range of prints. Like here's Paris in this really cool abstract style. Here's New York. Here's San Francisco. Here's Seattle. And you have a line of those. And that's something that everybody who's visited New York or who's in New York is going to want, this cool Picasso looking version of New York. Right. And so I think Lee's right. You begin with what does the customer want? What's something that's going to benefit their life? Like garnish their life, I guess. And then you make the thing that fills that need.
More like shellac their life.
But it has to be consistent. I mean, you got, and so that's going to involve some testing on you. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be like, okay, I mean, this is going to be a cool image. You test it. Everybody likes it. Do you really like making that image? I mean, sometimes I've had artists in my classes that are really good, like say at rendering, for example, they don't actually like making paintings like that. But then when they're finished with them, everybody likes them. And then so they love the praise that comes with them. And so you got to figure out, what do you like making? And then how does that, if you did the Venn diagram, how does that match with what people want? And so it looks like she's got like 4 or 5 different sort of paint styles going on. So which one of those are you going to be able to stick with? Like I was saying about Steve Houston, where 5 years down the road, you're still making these, line drawings of New York style stuff. Are you still going to enjoy that? Not to say that's the only thing you can make, but there's a huge road there. I mean, like if you look at that person that Jake was just showing with the Rifle Paper Company, she's got her whole brand in Pottery Barn. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like you can go to Pottery Barn and it's like, hey, if you're in Pottery Barn, you like Rifle Paper Company, you click on it and it's all the stuff that they sell under her brand. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's made it here. I'd love to have her. I wonder if we can get her on the podcast, man. That would be such a treat.
And a bond.
Because it's so wildly different than what I've done. Some licensing, but nothing on that scale.
Pretty cool.
I wonder how I'm sure everybody wants a piece of her. I wonder how we'd.
Yeah, but they're not famous like we are.
Whatever. Okay, part 2 of her second question. I'm gonna get into that, and this is a curveball. I'd love some bonus tips on how to get into the gaming industry. So.
Oh wow. Okay. No. We're not doing that. Why would we do that? You can't say I want to do this thing and then, oh, by the way, I want to do this entirely separate thing that requires its own whole set of rules.
Let's talk about that then. Okay. Because this right here is the problem so many stinking artists deal with.
We don't know where to focus.
True. Right. So finally, I'd love some bonus tips on how to get into the gaming industry. While I enjoy what I currently do, I do have a dream to eventually work on 2D games, especially those with Metroidvania feel to them, and I'm often doing job searches behind the scenes. However, most of the jobs I see on LinkedIn, for instance, require a degree or years of experience, neither of which I have. but I'm confident I have what it takes. Once I've put together a decent portfolio with my own game style background designs, which is what I mostly want to do, it's okay to apply for these jobs anyway, even if I don't have the experience or the degree.
You got to work on the thing that you want to do. You got to get with some people and make some indie games on your own, doing the very thing that you want to do.
I just don't understand how that question comes from this portfolio that I'm looking at.
Well, also with the whole first half of this question, I mean, it makes literally no sense. It would be, we like to use analogies on the show. I always tend to go to food analogies for some reason. Somebody opening a restaurant. Hey, I like pizza, but I also like pudding, and I also like breakfast. So I'm going to have a breakfast place that serves pudding in the afternoon and then pizza at night. Like, you just don't get that. Like, you got to figure out what you're going to do. And this is just, again, using other analogies for other sports. You don't see sports people in high school, really kicking butt, getting scholarships for a certain sport. And they're like, well, I like this other sport too, and this sport too, and this sport too, and I want to be pro at all of them. Like, it just doesn't happen. I mean, the rare exception may be like Bo Jackson, who did 2 pro sports at the same time, but that is by far the exception to the rule.
Before we did this podcast, I remember seeing a Facebook post from someone. It wasn't just posted on Facebook, but someone posted the conversation on Facebook, and they were asking a veteran illustrator, like, hey, I really want to get into, and I can't remember what it was in illustration that they wanted to do, gallery work or something, which isn't really illustration, but they wanted to do something. And they said, my plan is to write and illustrate my own children's books to make money so that I can then do the thing that I really want to do. And we illustrators were all kind of laughing because we were like, one, it's a slight to children's book illustrators and authors to think that you can just whip up some children's books
fallback
to make money when that, in order to make money in children's books, takes the dedication of a lifetime pretty much, right? So it was really kind of a naive question. I kind of am seeing a similar thing here, which is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I shouldn't use the word naive because we all start somewhere where we don't really know, we don't have enough information to make informed decisions and really well thought out decisions. And that's hopefully where we come in. And I just think if you really have a passion to do something, doing something else is going to, one, prolong and delay the inevitable, which is delaying where you really want to be. Two, you're not going to put your heart and soul into doing the other thing, because what you really want to do is the thing that you're not able to do right now because you're not doing it. And so I think you're in a place, and I get what you guys are saying, where you're not seeing it in the portfolio. That's a whole nother thing. But in general, what I'm answering is,
saying. Let me give you the quote. So get out your pencils again, or your phones if you type this on your phone. You got to understand the difference between what you like and what you do. You can like a lot of different things. I love the work that Jake does. But I'm not the guy to do that stuff, and I understand that. I'm not going to be a guy to put together a teched out spaceship. But I love looking at it, and once you learn this is what I like versus this is what I do, your life just got a whole lot simpler.
Yeah,
that might be the most profound thing you've ever said, Lee.
Yeah.
I save them up once a year.
But Jake, just know, if Lee and I wanted to, we could do better spaceships than you. We just don't want to.
If we wanted to.
If we wanted to.
And if I wanted to, I could do way better cute little animals in a tree hut with acorn.
You'd probably already do that.
Silverware or whatever.
You probably already do that. I've looked at some of your work to when I was learning how to do cute, and I'm like, man, how does he...
I'll tell you this: when I was in college, I loved landscape painting, and there's just big, smushy, oily kind of brush strokes and just in oil, and then I'd come back to children's books, and I'm in college, and I'm just kind of doing all these different illustrations, and I went to a Francis Livingston show, amazing landscape artist, and I realized, like, I like this stuff, but I don't need to be doing it. He's already doing it great. This is not my path. But man, it was a gut punch when I see that work. I love it, but I don't got to do it.
Yeah.
And man, all of a sudden I just cut out half the time I was spending on other stuff, doing these landscape paintings and like sort of half living in these different worlds, you know?
One last thing.
Go ahead.
Let me just throw this out there really quick to Lena. You want that job from Team Cherry or Leica? They're hiring people that are taking it upon themselves to do the thing that they want them to do. So they're showing them in their portfolio, look, I worked on this game. Oh, how did you do that? Oh, me and some friends put it together. I had a guy who did this part and someone else who did this programming part, and I did the backgrounds, and
So Will's right. You fake it. You fake it till you make it, right? Like that is such a tired phrase, but it's so true. People want 3 years of experience or want to show. You have to show people that you can do the thing. And if you can't get a job designing video games, go design your own video game.
They don't want to teach you. It's more expensive for them to teach you. If they can, if your competition is out there making this stuff on their own, that's who they're going to hire.
Mm-hmm. So I would, go find the indie, the friend who knows how to code and show him your art, and you two work together and you do all the artwork and he does all the back end programming for the game and put out like a little simple game. I don't know if it'll make any money, but it's a portfolio piece. Or just this is how I would have designed a game. I couldn't find anybody to work with, but this is my idea for a Metroidvania style game, right? That's how you break into any industry. People only hire you to do what you've already done.
Yeah.
So you got to go do it. Okay. Next question. This comes from Corlette. Agented illustrator would like to improve and get more gosh darn work. I'm an agented illustrator, and so far I've only gotten one book while being with my agency, signed back in 2020. I often wonder if I'm even good enough to be a picture book illustrator with such a whimsical, different style. I'd like to know what I can improve on, if my artwork is good in the first place. After watching one of your podcasts, I'm going to be honest with myself and say I'm a C artist. I'd love to improve and get more work, especially get over being so anxious about my artwork in general. I'd also like to know what class you fellows would recommend me take to improve. I feel like all of your classes will help, but if I can have a clear direction, it would really help me a lot. Thank you, Corlette. So clicking on her website here and looking at it, what do you...
pull it up? Is it okay to pull it up or no?
I'll pull it up. But let me get it going. Okay. You guys see that? So she's got this sort of flat with some textured style. It is contemporary. It is something that you would definitely see in children's books. Sort of.
It's got a juxtapose feel to it. You guys know the magazine Juxtapose, kind of like a lowbrow sensibility. I don't know why I'm feeling that.
It's too color saturated for the mainstream publishing market, I would say. Which is unfortunate because why, but there's a look that publishing is kind of going for. And in general, not to say that you can't go to the bookstore and find color saturated books, but I would say if you pick 10 books off the shelf in a Barnes and Noble in the picture book section, one is going to be this colorful. So
yeah,
that might be one area. There's some anatomy things on some of them where the characters are a little stiff, and some where they're really good, like you had good poses.
There may be a little bit of overdrawing there, but I don't know if that's because I favor a more simplistic kind of style. I'm not sure.
This is
if
a
I
great
say that.
author photo or illustrator.
Yeah,
just a great photo.
Yeah. It's
You're-
cool work. I just don't know how much appeal that it has for kids, even though it looks like it's made for kids. It looks like it's almost made for adults. Do you guys, especially like, go to that one with the girl sitting down right there on the left? Yeah, that one. I just don't see a kid responding to that. Why? I'm having trouble figuring it out. Doesn't necessarily look like a kid per se. It's kind of in the middle between this juxtaposed lowbrow style and kids. It's a very I don't think I've ever seen somebody kind of in this little pocket. And she could go either way. I think she's probably good enough to either lean it more towards kids or more towards adults actually, and go into this like juxtaposed world.
Yeah, but I think the goal is children's books, getting more. I mean, she's got an agent, getting more children's books. I think the problem too is this is your first book. Maxine's Critters Get the Vaccine Jitters. It's an okay first book, but I don't know how well this book sold. A lot of your second book deal is based off your first book deal, right? And so any sort of editor and the publishing team that looks at it, they're going to be like, okay, well, what other books and how did those books do that sold well, or how well did they sell, and how did that book do? And so sometimes they look at these past books and make a decision more off of the book sales than off of the artwork. And I don't know if this was done by a major publisher. Let me check Amazon here, but it could be that book sales of this first book are affecting book deals moving forward. It might be too a style thing as well, like what Lee's been saying.
Well, and also don't forget there's market considerations too. I will say right now, talking to agents and other illustrators, that it's sort of a tough time in the market. They're trying to find footing after the pandemic. It changed a lot of stuff when everybody all of a sudden started working at home, and it was just a major shift in life in 2020. And I think books, there's pre 2020 and then there's post 2020, and we're still trying to figure out the footing there. And I'm hearing that publishers are being a little tight pockets right now. They're not just buying anything. So,
and I would add, like, she comes from a marginalized group. Do you have a story to tell? Do you have any stories from your childhood that are poignant, that are because that's one thing that publishing is looking for right now.
Yeah,
definitely.
big
to
time.
publish voices that haven't been heard in the past as much. And a lot of these illustrations to me the stories seem really lighthearted, and there's nothing wrong with fun for fun's sake. I love books that are just fun, and I love the feeling. But as far as like getting work from a publisher today, I think you'd have more chance telling more stories that are less superficial.
See that? Yeah, I think you.
It's a good point.
Here's what's fun. We're all like tongue tied here and like speechless because this art is great. Like, there's nothing I would say aside from maybe a couple faces here that just need a little more work. Overall, you've really got a style nailed down, more so than some other artists, where it's like, people are all over the place and there's no consistency. These all look like they come from the same artist.
Right.
You've figured out a really unique and cool style, and really it's like we're at the stage now where in your career, I think, in what you're doing on, where we just have to turn these tiny little dials here and there to get success. But it's like, where and how much of these little micro decisions do we make? And I think that's what's throwing us for a loop, because a lot of times we look at people's artwork and it's like, oh, I could see exactly what's wrong here, and this is why you're not getting the work that you need to get. This is why things aren't working for you the way they should be working for you. And I think because there's a polish and there's just a level of care that looks like goes into each of these illustrations, it's just throwing us off a little bit. But honestly, I think Will sort of nailed it on the head there. This does, and Lee too, with the juxtaposed, it does lean a little. It's this weird thing where it's a little too commercial and a little too edgy, like edgy commercialism.
If you can have the same
yeah,
edgy commercialism,
you know what I mean?
Phrase, but it's
for
true.
The children's book publishing world, where they want, I don't know, it's just a fickle publishing. It's a fickle, like, publishers are so, trend oriented sometimes, and they don't want to push things too far if there's no basis for success on there. And so because your work doesn't look too much like everything else, maybe there's a risk there. I don't want to say change your whole style just to get, publishing work, but maybe you could desaturate things a little bit, like Will was saying. Maybe you could change the subject matter a little bit, and just start putting out some portfolio pieces that fit that a little bit more.
Maybe more sequential art that tells a more specific story. Because like I say, I would describe the work as decorative. And if I'm a publisher looking for, I mean, that's really the thing, is publishers are looking for unique stories. And if I think about somebody like Kadir Nelson, why do they go to Kadir for the kind of stories they go to? Because he's put it out there that he, in his work, is able to tell these amazing stories, these really specific stories, and that's a niche. And maybe she doesn't want to do that,
Well, I found this. So this is our last guy we interviewed, Benji. He's been doing these Busy Bear stories, and these are a little bit more commercial, right? And
he sold 5 million of them, by the way. So
yeah, yes, 5 million of these books.
Wow.
5 million.
Wow.
So he does 1 or 2 a year, it seems like. But you look at this is, a publisher's going to be like, okay, we want our Busy Bear. Who are we going to get to do our Busy Bear? Our version of Busy Bear or something. You come to your website, and they're considering, and they're looking at, are they going to see something in this work that's going to inspire confidence in them giving you a big project like that, or a book that fits like that? And it might be, maybe this is, I see some of these things here where maybe there would be a publisher who'd be like, yeah, I could see Corlett doing a Busy Bear series or something like that. But it could also be that maybe your agent's no good.
Well, I mean, that's what I was going to say next, is like, what is the agent saying? Because that's they're just people too with opinions, and you got to make sure that you match sort of the direction that they're telling you to go. But back to what I was saying about market considerations right now. What I have heard kind of cumulatively right now is, like, before, you used to be able to get a book deal when a book was, let's just say, 65%. Like, say you get a book dummy to 65%, you do a sample painting, looks pretty good, send it in. A publisher might say, okay, hey, that sounds great, let's go ahead and develop that, and you get a contract. Now I'm hearing that books have to be around the 95% done level before they're going to say, okay, let's sign the contract. So it's just a little bit harder of a market. So things need to be taken to a little more finished level than they used to be. Then that's just like word on the street. I don't have any metrics other than that.
This is such a cool illustration here. I really like that. I think because this one leans even harder into the whimsy and the weirdness.
That's true.
Maybe that's
super fun.
Yeah.
But it's not, you're not going to get a publisher to want you to do a children's book from that as much. It's more decorative.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that's a good thing to do going down the licensing road.
Part of the question was, what classes would we recommend? I don't think you need a particular class. I think you just it's go time on portfolio pieces.
Yep.
And
That's exactly right.
maybe working a little bit on faces, making some faces a little bit better, and taking out those pieces that don't have as good of faces and putting in new ones that really rock and roll. But
I'd say gesture, understanding gesture
Mhm.
and shape a little bit better on your characters,
yeah,
especially on the teenagers, would definitely help a little bit. But also if you're serious about getting more book assignments, go to the bookstore and look at a bunch of books,
hmm
and don't cherry pick the ones that appeal to you. Try to look at a cross section of 10 or 20 books, maybe
right.
ones that you wouldn't choose, but like, why are they getting published? What are they looking for?
Okay, last question. This comes in from Michael. He says, 3-point perspective is my number one podcast. Okay, we appreciate that, but we got to get to the question. Okay, I was published for the first time in 2023. The publisher printed a small amount of books, under 10,000, and I was told they will likely want to do another printing within the next year or two, once the book is sold out of its first edition. My question is, how much should I charge for a second edition of the book? Is there some kind of percentage or formula I can use to calculate that? What is the process like between you and your publisher? Is it a separate contract? Is there ever any renegotiation at this point? Is there anything I should watch out for? I'd love to hear some personal account of how that's gone for you three. So the question is, how do you charge for a book's second edition? And I think what's going on here is he doesn't understand. Typically, a book deal is for essentially the book printed indefinitely, and you get a royalty every time they go back and reprint. You don't have to renegotiate every time a book is printed. It's just in your contract that says, here's my advance, and for every book sold, I get 10%. 10% of the book cover, and then it's on book cover price, and then it's on the publisher to decide if they can afford to do a second printing, if a second printing is going to be worth it or not. Typically what they've done is they've made enough money on the first printing. Sales are still strong. They're going to project that next year we're going to need another 10,000 copies to meet the sales demands. So we've got it in our budget. Let's print another thing. Let's go there. The only time you get more money is if it's printed in a different language or in a different market somewhere. So they'll come to say, we sold the rights to this publisher to print this book in Italy. Here's $5,000, and that'll go.
You don't get to pick how much that is. By the way, when that does happen,
Right.
Typically you'll get an email saying, "Hey, we're selling this book in Korea now, and you get $3,500." It's not like you're going back and renegotiating something.
And for me, a lot of times that goes towards my advance, so I don't even see that money. I already got paid for that money.
True.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other input on that? How would you make sure your contract is set up in the first place?
You don't have to set it up for print run kind of concerns, because you're really guaranteed, no matter how much it is, you're guaranteed a percentage of that. We'll say this: don't do work for hire. This is the reason not to do it. You get this knockout hit. They go through the first print run. Now they're doing the second print run. You have been paid already. You're not even a part of this conversation. But if they do 10 print runs, it still just means they're selling a bunch of copies, and then your contract, you're getting a percentage of what they're selling. Doesn't matter whether the print run was 10,000 or 1,000 or whatever.
Yeah. The Hangry Little Caterpillar sold how many millions and millions of copies, and they didn't print that on the first run, but
you know what's funny about the angry the Hungry Caterpillar is that, we talk about story and all that stuff so much, and then you got the best selling book of all time. Basically, it's just like he's just eating stuff. That's it. Like he just wants some apple.
Right.
We're overcomplicating it quite a bit. If you just come up with a little insect eating stuff, you will make billions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because I just finished the Ken Burns 3-part documentary on Ernest Hemingway, right? And he had written countless articles. For he was a correspondent, war correspondent. He had written, these amazing, best-selling, timeless books, and some bad books too. And the whole time he's like, am I done with my career? Because a book would be a failure. It may be overcomplicated or whatnot. And so towards the end of his career, he sits down and he writes Old Man in the Sea, which is about a guy who goes out and catches a fish that's too big. And then he comes back because the sharks ate the fish, right? And it's about as simple as a story as you can get, but it's his absolute best work. It wins the Pulitzer Prize. And it's like, I think you have to be either, it's either genius or just naivety to create the perfect story. Right.
Yeah, that's true. It's one of those one side.
Well, that's what happened in Shawshank Redemption, right? So the character, Morgan Freeman's character, is trying to tell the perfect story to the parole board each year, right? He gets denied, and finally, when he tells the truth and it tells exactly what's in his mind and in his heart, it's what gets him freed.
They're like, yeah, okay, we'll let you go. Yeah, that's a good point. Don't overthink it. Keep it simple. And there's this comic that I love too called Beta Ray Bill. It's the Daniel Warren Johnson one, and it's just the perfect comic book. And Beta Ray Bill is like it takes place in Marvel universe, and he's like a offshoot of Thor, and he's this C-list character in Marvel comics. He hasn't even showed up in the movies or anything, but Daniel Warren Johnson took this character and made just the funnest darn comic you could make with it. And the whole story is he hates how he looks. He wants to, he's like a sort of, the backstory is he was this one alien species, and they modified him to be this massive warrior, but the modifications changed how he's able to relate to people. He's like a monster, and he just wants to be his normal, just his normal person, so he could love again, so he could have a relationship. And the only way he could do that is by obtaining this sword trapped in this mountain and this other planet. And I'm like, it's simple. It doesn't have to be like a James Bond movie where the villain is doing this, huge, elaborate, like twisted thing, and James Bond has to go do this thing and then that thing and this thing and that thing in order to get to I got to go retrieve a sword so I can look better and get a date, And I'm like, it's fun. It's perfect. All right. Anything else? Should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap.
I think we reached the end of our attention span, so it's time. It is
starting
time.
to pull up websites anytime I do that.
It is time. All right, everybody. 3-Point Perspective is brought to you by SVSLearn.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. Your hosts are Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. And special thanks to our podcast producer, Daniel, too, for editing and putting this podcast out there and helping us out with that. Special thanks to our show notes wrangler, Lily Howell, for all of the show notes that we get going on here. If you haven't, go to 3-Point Perspective on the SVS website. Just click on that tab, and you can go through and read all the notes for all past episodes. She does a really good job, and it's a great resource if you're looking for answers to questions and see what other questions have done. Also, you could submit a question over there. So it's svslearn.com/the number 3, point perspective. And then there's a little button there on the right that says, I forget what it says, but click on it and it'll take you to a form that will tell you where you could just type in your questions. That'd be good. We also have a course coming up here. Children's Book Pro that we're taking students for. We run this twice a year, or we have been running it twice a year. And every time people are just like, oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this.
And we've been doing it enough to where we actually have some of the first people who went through it actually starting to get agents and book deals, which is kind of interesting to see. It's really exciting.
Yeah, because you take the course, it takes about a year to build up the portfolio from what you learned on the 10-week course. And then it takes about, 6 months or whatever to get to hit the pavement essentially with your work and stuff. So it's cool to see that happening. I think that's it. Special thanks to our Chief Operations Officer, Lisa Fott. Now, go draw something.
Are we ready to start?
Hey, speaking of
questions.
That little, what's that little coin called?
A challenge coin?
Challenge coin.
Yeah.
So you put it in your pocket, and it reminds you of something or something that's important to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, sort of a non sequitur, but interesting. I was cleaning out. We're moving stuff in my basement because we're thinking about refinishing the basement, and found an old box. My dad's been passed away for 20 years.
Yeah.
And this note falls out right here. Just a random handwritten note from my dad. Not to me or anything. It just is a note. It says, "I've seen yesterday. I love today. I'm not afraid of tomorrow."
Whoa.
Oh,
Isn't
wow.
that a cool note?
Yeah.
I mean, it just fell out. Like it was
frame
like
that?
written to me or something. Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I just got it right back here right now. I should frame it, huh? Because I'll end up like ripping it or dog will
frame
eat
that
it, it'll
thing.
fall off.
Frame that thing.
Isn't
That's
that cool
cool.
though to get a note from your dad. Like I haven't talked to him obviously in 25
Yeah.
years. And all
So
of a
here's
sudden I
what you
get this
do,
little,
Lee. Here's what you do. I know you're gonna live forever, just the way how healthy you are. But at some point, it'll catch up with you. Year one, let's see, you'll die in probably 2078 or something like that.
right.
But what you should do is something like that, like write a bunch of notes for your kid, and every time you visit it, like slip it into, some little nook or some book or something like that,
I
and
love
just
that.
have it there, and he'll be finding those well into his later
Dude,
years.
stuff like that gets me going, man. I love. Have you ever been to the Salton Sea?
Mm-mm.
Do you know about the Salton Sea?
Is that the one where they were going to build a big retirement community and it?
It was an area in California that
Yeah.
somehow, because of farmland all around it, got over salinated, like too much salt,
Right.
and ended up killing just entire communities around this now dried lake. And so when you go there, it's these half destroyed neighborhoods, all these half destroyed campers and stores, and like it's like a wasteland. I mean, it's like a zombie land kind of. I mean, just
Well,
a true apocalyptic kind of a setting. Anyway, Lisa and I went there. It's amazing to take pictures. And so I'm taking pictures, and there's this old, like, armchair out in the middle of the salt flat, just an armchair. It is all beat up, springs sticking out of it, whatever. Just an amazing looking shot just by itself. We're at sunset. It's just, I mean, it looks like I staged it or something. I'm taking a picture, and I see a little like glimmer like in the pocket. I was like, what was that? And so I took my picture, and then I walked over there, started digging around, and just tucked into the crevice of this old chair was a sealed wax bottle with a message inside. And
Whoa.
I pulled it out, and it just said, on the message, it says, "A world gone to the dogs."
Whoa.
A lot of people lost a lot of money. That was a big
so
development.
Weird, so cool.
That was a big development. There's good, really interesting documentaries on it. How they thought it was going to be like
This huge thing.
a big retirement community and all. And one of the things that happened was the water attracted like these massive hordes of flies and
Yeah.
gnats and stuff. And so like people were trying to would go out there to to think about buying, or people had already bought, and they're just plagued by these swarms of
it was a
bugs
mess.
and stuff.
I mean, it's just total decay now. But what end of my story. So I love messages like that. I love the one that I found from my dad, and I love this message that I found in the Salt and Sea. It's kind of like, I mean, that is why I'm a children's book illustrator. Like those little weird moments that all of a sudden start something. So I kept that sealed message, but I sealed up another message and drove back out there like 2 hours and put a message back in the chair.
Oh, cool. What'd your message say?
You should have put
Was it a
2
secret?
messages.
I can't tell you that. I have to kill you. It's for
Somebody-
one person to find. And I'm curious now. I think back on it, and sometimes I wonder if someone found it, or maybe it's still there. I don't know.
I would write, I know that you're looking for something profound in this message, in this bottle, but I'm sorry, I don't have anything profound for you.
Yeah, life is
That's what
what
I
you
would
think
put
it
in there.
is. There's nothing new. Go away.
Pay it, and then with a pay it forward.
I'd put in there. I'd like to talk to you about your car's warranty expiring.
It was an ad for solar in there. We get a
I'd
lot
probably
of those.
put something like, you should check out SVSLearn.com. One of the
Hey,
best
if
places
if
to
this
learn
ba-
how to
if
become an
this banter
illustrator.
makes it into our show, which I think it should, what I'd like the comments to be is, what would you guys put in the message that you would
Oh,
leave?
yeah.
Yeah, put that in.
I will read those comments.
I will
Put
read
that-
that. That'd be interesting.
That's on the YouTube, right? Where we
On the
read the
YouTube.
comments, right? Yeah.
That's right. If you made it this far, that's your thing. I would put this in the bottle and then
Yeah.
answer it.
What's your message that goes into this chair that's out in a wasteland? Pretty neat.
Okay. I was having a. Can I tell one more story? No,
You have
we'll
it. You
just
have
get
to.
into it. We'll just get into it. I'm wasting too much time.